Dream a little dream of me. Welcome kindreds, it's Jessica the Story Witch, and this is video 5, I believe, of the bullet journal series I'm making as a kind of preparation for our Buju live sessions we're going to be doing together, or maybe you won't be doing them live, maybe you'll be doing them afterwards, and that is totally cool too. So this video is going to be about planners, lists and trackers and what they are, which ideas for the kind of things you might want to include in your setup, and basically that. So bullet journals have I explained what bullet journals were in the very first video. No, in the resources video I talked a little bit about the differences between bullet journaling and just regular journaling, and bullet journals have become kind of famous, especially like on Instagram and on Pinterest and places like that, for all these kind of extra things they have in them, like trackers, lists and planners. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those today, like I said, and explain what they are and which ones you might want. So let's start with trackers first of all. So a tracker basically is, as the name suggests, just like a grid or a table, or it could be like something more arty than that, which is used to track anything. So people use them perhaps to track certain habits. You can use a tracker to keep track of like your exercise schedule. You can use a tracker to track your finances, or if you're like saving for a certain goal, or if you are losing weight, or if you are doing daily tarot draws, or if you are using, you to track your periods. Anything basically that you do on a regular basis, you can use a tracker to track that. And that's really useful because it helps you to see if you're actually doing the things that you should be doing or that you want to be doing. And that leads me on to what bugs me about trackers sometimes is that people use them as almost like it can become something which makes you feel crap about yourself. And that is the exact opposite of everything that I'm hoping for you all with this series. I see sometimes people using trackers and then they haven't done certain things and they're like, oh, I didn't do that. Look at me, look how shit I am, basically, because I haven't done this thing that I said I was going to do in my tracker. And that is not how I like to use them. I do use trackers, I do find them really useful, but I definitely use them as a way of kind of keeping tabs of the awesomeness that is me, rather than, like noticing things about me, rather than a stick to beat myself with. So for example, I have a healthy habit tracker which I use each month, which you will have seen when you see my monthly setups. And in that habit tracker, I have things noted down like meditation, like exercise, like reading, like checking in with my bullet journal. What else is in there? Nourish, which is when I've kind of stuck to how I want to be eating each day. And every evening when I'm doing my bullet journal setup for the following day, I go through and I check off, or gratitude as well, going outside, things like that. I check off all the things that I've done. And some months it'll become blindingly clear that I am not doing certain things on my habit tracker. Most often exercise is the one that gets bumped off the list. And meditation, sometimes I'll go for like a week and I won't have done any meditation. And I think, oh, that's interesting, I haven't done any meditation for a week. Rather than, oh, that's shit, I haven't done any meditation for a week, So that is how I kind of encourage you to use them, to use it more as a observation of yourself and to be curious about yourself and think, well, why haven't I been doing that? Why is it? And especially if you have any like mental health issues or anything like that, just be really kind to yourself and just use them as an observational tool rather than a proof that you are a crap person, because you are not, So that's my kind of soapbox bit about trackers. And now I'm just going to explain the ones that I'm going to use in the live setup. And sorry, somebody's beeping me. Oh no, it's just a thing telling me I need to stand up on my watch. And how, you know, what I'm going to be doing, and you can have a think about the sort of trackers you might want to use in your setup. So the first category I kind of use to split the trackers up is that the ones that you might want to have in your annual setup are separate from the ones that you would be putting in each month, or even people even do like weekly trackers and things like that. So let's talk about the annual ones first. And those annual ones, the ones you're going to be putting at the start of your bullet journal, well, if you want to, if you're going to follow the kind of setup that I'm doing, are things that you're going to be doing through the entire year, and they're things you want to be tracking through the entire year. Although sometimes you'll prefer to put those in on a month-to-month basis instead, rather than have them as an overall year. So basically think about, do I want to draw this out again each month? Can I fit enough information on like one page or over a double page spread to be able to contain all the information for a whole year? Just have it once in as an annual thing. Is it useful to see months together? In which case it'd be better to have it in your annual spread than in your monthly spread. And so they're ways of kind of gauging out, actually, is this an annual tracker, or is this a monthly tracker or a weekly tracker? So that probably doesn't make any sense without examples. So let me try and show you, although the light is a little bit bright, so hopefully it will still be able to show. So things that I use as an annual tracker, and which I'll be using again next year, is my tarot tracker. And this has got this little, I'll show you that again in a moment. So this is my daily draw tracker, which I do keep in my bullet journal. And hopefully you can see that, excuse me. So this is adapted from one that Jess Roller showed on her website, actually. So I'll probably put a link for that down below as well. It's not exactly the same as that, it's kind of like my take on it. And the reason these parts are empty are because those were the ones that I did when I was in my previous bullet journal before I came over to this bullet journal. And sometimes like I've like forgotten to take my journal if I've gone away and things like that, so I've dotted them into my scrap notebook instead. So what I do is I just put each month down. So we've got January, February, March, you know, the months going down the page. And then each day I fill in a little coloured square, and I've got a key in the corner that is just basically tells you which suit it is. And then if it's a major, is over here. And I've also got the full moon and dark moon in there too, just because sometimes that I find that feeds in to the information. So then each day I just colour in the square in the appropriate colour, and I write the number down. So that's all I need to write on the square is the number, because obviously I know the suit or whether it was a major. And that is what I have clipped in, is a little list of the majors with their numbers, because not all decks have the numbers on the majors. And although in theory I know them all, I find it helpful to just have that there. And I clip that in with one of those little bulldog clips that I showed in the resource video, and I flick the one bit down, and I keep this up so that when it's in my book I can very easily find the page straight away, because I don't want to be like flicking through and find that tracker. I can be like, oh, there it is, true, and I'm there, so I can just fill it in straight away. And then at the end of the year you can kind of look through and see like which cards were coming up a lot, which suits were perhaps coming up a lot, and using the colours really helps with that, because it usually stands out really clearly which ones, you know, are coming out more than others, which numbers have come out more than others. You know, you can really, it's interesting. I find it interesting, especially like some months you'll go down, you'll be like, whoa, so many swords that month, you know, and things like that. So yeah, or so many majors that month. So that is one of the trackers I use as an annual tracker. I don't record my daily draws and draw that out for each month, because for me, that even though I write my card down on a daily basis within my daily setup, I don't find it useful to track it month to month within the month, if you see what I mean. I want to be able to see that information for the whole year altogether. So that's why I like to have that in my annual tracker. And the next pages are another tracker, which is my blood moon tracker, which is basically my periods. And that's similar in that it's but this time it's just on one page, and this is just kind of collage that ties in with it, which I like. So I'm probably going to use a fairly similar format for that again in 2019. So if you want to be tracking, I mean, obviously if you don't have periods, you won't want to be doing this, but some people like to keep like a mood tracker or things like that overall, and I just use my, like, very simple, it's like a month down. Why can I not get that to show without it being? So it's like the months are going down each, just the numbers, and then I just track on. I've also got the dark moons and the full moons marked on the months here as well, and I just do a full circle for heavy days. I do like a kind of stripy circle for lighter days, and like just a empty red circle for very light days, you know. So that's that, and that's another tracker that I will be including in my annual setup. And I think that is it really for... Okay, so I have got this tracker as well, which I don't know if you know. You're not going to be able to see that very well. I've got what I call my Story Witch tracker, which basically keeps track of that I've done, that I've sent my newsletter each month, my monthly newsletter, my full moon newsletter, how many Instagram posts I've made in that particular month, how many videos I've posted, if I've done blog posts, or if I've submitted writing to any of the competitions and things like that. So that's my Story Witch tracker, which I'll be doing a similar thing for that this year as well. I also have a video planner, but that's not really a tracker, that's a planner, which is something that we'll be coming on to in a little bit. So that is it for my annual trackers. They're the only ones I use. Other ones you might want to use, sometimes people put like if they are budgeting for something or saving for something, they might want to put like a savings tracker on there as well, for how much you've saved that particular month, and then that will keep that as an annual savings tally. Or if people are paying off debt, they sometimes like to put their debt and track that, how that is going down each month. From a more like magical point of view, you might want to track, as in, you know, like take it out of your dailies and monthlies and put it on there. You might want to track more like your card for the month that you're working with, or perhaps the decks that you've worked with each month, things like that. So, you know, there's endless possibilities basically of things that you can track and what the trackers can be used for. What I will say though, like I seem to say about everything with everything, is that don't like overwhelm yourself with stuff, because the more trackers you've got, the more things you need to be filling in on a daily basis, and the more opportunity there will be to kind of feel like you've slipped off the wagon and it's like there's no point in getting back on now, I'm too far behind. So don't let it be like that. It's for you, you know. So don't put a track. If you can always add it later, so even though you can't put it in the front later, it doesn't matter, because the wonderful thing about the bullet journal setup is you can just plonk it anywhere in the middle of a month and pop it in your index and stick a little bulldog clip on it, and you can come back to it at any time. So if at the moment you're not doing a daily draw, don't bother doing a daily draw tracker. You know, don't feel like, oh, I should put that in. Don't do it. You know, don't overstretch yourself with this. The whole point of it is that you will get things that you want to have, things that you want to use, things you want to look back on. So look at what it is you're already doing in your life, and then if it would be helpful to have a tracker for that, include it. Like perhaps if you need to take specific medication or something like that, that would be something helpful to track. Although perhaps it's not, because maybe you're already using an app on your phone for that or something. You know, don't add complications that are unnecessary. Just use things that will actually be useful for you and not feel like a burden to you. I think that's the main reason why people fall off the journaling thing, is because it's become not fun, you know, it's become like a chore, and that is the exact opposite. It should feel like a wonderful, spiritual, nurturing experience, and not a, oh, I gotta go and do my bullet journal now, otherwise I'm not going to fill in all my things. Don't, you know, some days you're going to feel like that anyway, just because you're like, oh, I can't be arsed with it today, and that's fine. Just don't do it, and then do it the next day when you feel like you want to, you know. So you do things which bring you joy. So anyway, I'm ranting again now. Let's show some examples of things that would be more monthly trackers. So for example, this is my healthy habit, oh god, it's not going to show it again. My healthy habit tracker. I wonder if I can like hold something up to shield it, because I think it's the window light that's the problem. kind of. So, you know, you can track, and you can see there was like a whole week where I didn't fill in anything. So, you know, I practice what I preach, guys. So, you know, you can track habits like that on a month-to-month basis as well. And people even do like little weekly ones of those as well, where they can track things on a weekly basis. And you can have more ones like this, which are, is I going to even show now? I've got my field notes there of things that I've been doing when I go outside. I've also got my gratitude tracker, which are just things like daily. I'm just writing in what I'm grateful for. Like I said, the more trackers you have, the more work you're making for yourself. So just think really hard about whether that is useful. And like my gratitude tracker is something that I will always include, because I find if I'm having a shitty day, actually filling in my gratitude tracker helps to lift me. So that is something that is integral to my practice, but it might not be for you, you know. So figure out what it is that you actually want to track and do trackers for that. So that's trackers. What else did I say we're talking about? Lists is another thing that people like to include in their bullet journals. And if you go on Pinterest and type in like bullet journal list, oh my gosh, there's so many gorgeous, and I think this is why people get carried away sometimes, is because you see these gorgeous examples of beautiful pages, you know, like to be read piles and things like that, and people have drawn out gorgeous stacks of books, and then they'll have filled in all their TBRs, and then like you never ever go back and read any of them. Or it's lists very much the same as trackers. Only keep lists of things that are actually useful for you to keep lists of. So I have very few, I don't include hardly any lists in my annual tracker. This year, one of my goals was to be learning to be able to play more songs on the guitar. And so I have got like a list of songs that I can play and sing. I can't find that now. It should be in your Zoom. Okay, yeah, so these are the ones from the second part. Oh, you can't even see it. So I've got written just like songbook at the top of the page, and then I've filled in some songs with the chords on to just remind me of those songs that I have learned, which is only like 5 songs. But you know, it's better than nothing. And then I've got books that I've read. I do keep a list of the books that I've read through the year. So I just put reading list at the top, and you can't see any of it. And then I fill in the list of the books I've read. And I tend to read quite a lot, so I usually fill a whole page for that for the year. So yeah, I do sometimes write like a little note about the book as well. Or if I've made notes on the book in here, then I'll write that in the index, so that can kind of be referenced in there. I also do a video planner, like I mentioned, which I only started doing later on in the year because I realised I kind of got a bit confused about which videos I was going to be making and stuff. And I'm just like, I've got that kind of brain where I like to kind of see stuff like that, and then I can cross it off and know that I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And this year I'll be making one for my Patreon page as well, to make sure that I know that I'm on top of things and that everyone's getting what they're supposed to be getting as their rewards and things like that. So yeah, that'll be something that will be in my annual list setup rather than my tracker setup. I might make the videos one an actual tracker, because then I can use that to track like whether I've recorded the video, whether I've edited it, whether I've done the thumbnail, something like that, you know. So it'll be more kind of like a to-do list type tracker in there, perhaps. You know, like I said, don't bother doing things that are not useful. Some of the things, and you only learn really what's useful and what's not useful by trying it and seeing if you use it or not. So start with what you're already doing and then take it from there. And planners, obviously I already talked a little bit about planner. The line between kind of trackers and planners are more like things that you are planning on doing. So sometimes if you are like planning on, say you were like training for a marathon or something like that, then in your planner you might say like, by this date I'll be aiming to run this amount, and by this date this amount, that kind of thing. So it's a kind of a tracker, kind of a planner. Budget things also can go in there. Go on Pinterest, type it in, and it will literally blow your mind. So that is trackers, planners and lists. I do, if I need to make a list, like I've made a list of Christmas presents I'm going to be buying people, I just drop that into the current month and put it in the index so I can find it. And I've got a wish list for tarot decks and oracle decks I'm interested in, so I make a note of those, and that's just like randomly dotted around to my journal with a little paper clip on it so I can come and find it easily, and it's noted in the index so I can find it easily. And perhaps I will put those things at the start when I do my 2019 setup, but perhaps I won't. It doesn't matter, you know, you can literally plonk them in wherever you want to, because you can find them, which is so wonderful about the bullet journal. So I think that is it for planners, trackers and lists. Like I said, if you Pinterest it, it will blow your mind, but please don't get too carried away. Only use the things you actually think will be useful, or just don't worry about it. Like if you start one off and you realize I'm not actually filling this in, then just think, okay, I'm not actually filling it in, and just let it go, you know, and just move on with the rest of the stuff that you're doing in your journal. So that actually is it. I know I've said this about 9 times already, and I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Warmest blessings, and I will see you very soon.